The captain stepped out of the cockpit for a moment. He was never allowed back in. What happened next shocked the aviation world forever. Germanwings Flight 9525 was a scheduled passenger flight from Barcelona, Spain, to Düsseldorf, Germany, that crashed deliberately into the French Alps on the 24th of March 2015, killing all 150 people on board, and it stands as one of the most disturbing tragedies in aviation history. Because it was not caused by mechanical failure, weather, or accident, but by intentional human action from inside the cockpit, forcing the aviation world to confront uncomfortable truths about mental health, cockpit security, and the limits of safety systems. The aircraft was an Airbus A320-211 operated by Germanwings, a low-cost subsidiary of Lufthansa, carrying 144 passengers and 6 crew members, many of whom were German students returning from a school exchange in Spain. The flight departed Barcelona normally and climbed to its cruising altitude of 38,000 feet, with nothing unusual reported during takeoff or the initial phase of flight. In the cockpit were Captain Patrick Sondenheimer, an experienced pilot, and First Officer Andreas Lubitz, who was younger but fully qualified. About 30 minutes into the flight, as the aircraft crossed southern France, the captain left the cockpit to use the restroom, a routine action that would normally pose no risk. At that moment, Lubitz locked the reinforced cockpit door, which had been strengthened after the September 11th attacks to prevent hijackers from gaining access, and he deliberately prevented the captain from re-entering. Cockpit voice recorder data later revealed the sound of the captain knocking, then pounding on the door, and eventually attempting to break in, while Lubitz remained silent except for his calm breathing, indicating he was conscious and in control. Shortly after the captain left the cockpit, the aircraft began a steady, controlled descent from cruising altitude, initiated by Lubitz manually selecting a lower altitude on the flight control panel. Air traffic controllers attempted to contact the flight multiple times, but received no response, and nearby military aircraft were not able to intercept in time due to the rapid descent and remote mountainous location. For approximately 10 minutes, the aircraft descended at a constant rate, remaining structurally intact and fully controllable until it struck a mountainside near the town of Prades-Haute-Bléone at high speed, killing everyone instantly. The investigation, led by French authorities with international cooperation, quickly determined that the crash was intentional. Further inquiry into Lubitz's background revealed a deeply troubling picture. He had a history of severe depression and psychological distress, had previously been declared unfit to fly during his training, and had received medical treatment for mental health issues. In the period leading up to the crash, Lubitz had consulted multiple doctors, some of whom reportedly judged him unfit to work. But due to medical confidentiality laws in Germany, this information was not fully communicated to his employer. Investigators also found that Lubitz had researched suicide methods and cockpit door security on his computer and had torn up sick notes that would have excused him from work, suggesting a deliberate effort to conceal his condition. Importantly, there was no evidence of terrorism, political motive, or external coercion. The act was classified as murder-suicide driven by untreated or inadequately managed mental illness. The crash sent shockwaves around the world, not only because of the scale of loss, but because it shattered the assumption that reinforced cockpit doors had solved the problem of unlawful interference. Measures introduced after 9/11 to keep people out of the cockpit had unintentionally made it nearly impossible to get back in if the threat came from within. Families of the victims faced an especially painful form of grief, knowing that their loved ones had died as the result of a deliberate act rather than an accident, and many struggled with anger, confusion, and the search for accountability. In response to the tragedy, aviation authorities worldwide implemented immediate and long-term changes. One of the most immediate was the introduction or reinforcement of the two-person cockpit rule, requiring that at least 2 authorized crew members be present in the cockpit at all times, so that if one pilot leaves, a flight attendant must enter. Although some regions later relaxed this rule based on further risk assessments, it marked a significant shift in thinking about internal threats. Airlines also strengthened psychological screening for pilots, expanded access to confidential mental health support programs, and encouraged non-punitive reporting systems so pilots could seek help without fear of losing their careers. The accident also sparked intense debate about medical confidentiality versus public